This week on The Inside Story, voters in the United States elect Donald Trump as the country's 47th president. See how election night unfolded in a deeply divided nation and how it affects the balance of power in Congress. Now, on The Inside Story, Trump wins.
Welcome to The Inside Story. I'm Carla Babb in Washington. America has voted and we have a winner. Former President Donald Trump will be the next president of the United States after one of the most surprising and divisive election years in modern history. At 78, Trump is the oldest man ever elected president, and he is also the first president since Grover Cleveland to lose re-election and then return to the White House. That was way back in 1892. We began our coverage with VOA national correspondent Carolyn Presutti.
The next president of the United States is a familiar one.
So I want to thank the American people for the extraordinary honor of being elected your 47th president and your 45th president.
Former President Donald Trump waited more than 7 hours after the polls closed on the East Coast to address his followers.
It's time to put the divisions of the past 4 years behind us. It's time to unite.
Supporters were always confident, despite polls showing a razor-thin difference between Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris.
I think a lot of people are just tired of what's going on in the country. Just everything's up. Food, fuel, housing.
I liked the 4 years we had under Trump prior, and I'm hoping we can get back to that.
After Trump achieved the required 270 electoral votes, the red wave continued in the U.S. Senate as the Republicans took the majority. It's been a brutally long campaign, with Trump surviving 2 assassination attempts. A bullet in July grazed his ear, leaving an iconic image of the presidential candidate mouthing, "Fight, fight, fight." Renee White was sitting behind him that day in Butler, Pennsylvania, and she was in West Palm Beach election night. She says Trump needs to keep that attitude these next 4 years.
I don't think it's going to be easy. You have to keep fighting.
It's almost as if this crowd knew their man would win from the very beginning. When they walked into this election watch party, they were handed a hat with Trump written on the back and on the side, 45 and 47. Carolyn Presutti, VOA News, West Palm Beach, Florida.
Carolyn joins us now from the Trump campaign headquarters in West Palm Beach, Florida. Carolyn, I could feel the excitement in your television report. What's the mood like down there?
It was certainly jubilant in that convention hall, Carla. And every time they'd show the figures on the screen, when they would call states for Trump, everyone would erupt in roars and cheers and claps. And it was almost a dance atmosphere toward the end. People just didn't want to leave. And I think today they're waking up and thinking, okay, let's get this administration started. They're calling it Trump 2.0. Whereas you have the Democrats on the other side who are waking up and saying, oh my gosh, what happened? Where did we go wrong? Where did the polls not play out correctly? I mean, the polls were showing a very razor-thin margin between these two candidates. But then when you look at these results, they aren't razor-thin. So I'm sure Democrats are going to go back to the drawing board and they're going to say, how can we do better in future races? How can we do better in future presidential races? And when you look at those swing states, my goodness, they were supposed to split, right? Or at least Harris was supposed to get 1 or 2 of those. Because remember, 4 years ago, in 2020, Biden had flipped several of those states from being red Republican states to Democratic blue states. And this time around, Trump flipped them back to the red Republican states. So all this is going to be looked at in the next days, weeks, months ahead to just analyze what happened in this election for Democrats. And of course, Republicans going forward are saying, this is the mood of the country, and this is the way that we will continue the next 5 years.
So, Carolyn,
4 years. The next 4 years.
The next 4 years. That's right, Carolyn. What reactions are we seeing to the Trump win?
Well, here in West Palm Beach, I don't know if you can see it behind me, but that is Mar-a-Lago, and that is where President-elect Trump and future First Lady Melania live. That is their home. So this area is certainly their homestead, their residence. So the people here are red, and they definitely vote Republican. And as you saw in this election, Florida did go to Trump.
And markets, I see, are responding as well.
Absolutely. You know, Trump promised to get a better hold on the economy. Dow Jones Industrial Average soaring. Bitcoin was the very first stock to respond to this, and it was soaring too. So that just shows you that there is confidence in the market, in the economy, and this is what Trump has been promising all through the campaign. His supporters are saying, see, we told you so. So moving forward, we'll see if that boost in the economy continues, if that boost in the market continues.
Well, Carolyn, we will turn to you on the developments as the Trump headquarters starts to make up their new administration and move towards the White House. Carolyn Pursuti in West Palm Beach, Florida. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
President-elect Donald Trump declared victory early Wednesday in a speech to his supporters from his campaign headquarters. Here are some of the highlights.
Thank you all very much. This is great. This was, I believe, the greatest political movement of all time. There's never been anything like this in this country and maybe beyond. And now it's going to reach a new level of importance because we're going to help our country heal. We're going to help our country heal. We have a country that needs help, and it needs help very badly. We're going to fix our borders. We're going to fix everything about our country. And we made history for a reason tonight, and the reason is going to be just that. We overcame obstacles that nobody thought possible, and it is now clear that we've achieved the most incredible political thing. Look what happened. Is this crazy? And every citizen, I will fight for you, for your family, and your future. Every single day I will be fighting for you, and with every breath in my body, I will not rest until we have delivered the strong, safe, and prosperous America that our children deserve and that you deserve. This will truly be the golden age of America. That's what we have to have.
It was a long night for the Harris campaign. Kamala Harris addressed the nation on Wednesday after losing her historic bid for the presidency.
Thank you all. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you. So let me say, and I love you back, and I love you back. So let me say, my heart is full today. My heart is full today, full of gratitude for the trust you have placed in me, full of love for our country, and full of resolve. The outcome of this election is not what we wanted, not what we fought for, not what we voted for, but hear me when I say, the light of America's promise will always burn bright. As long as we never give up and as long as we keep fighting. Look, I am so proud of the race we ran and the way we ran it. And the way we ran it over the 107 days of this campaign, we have been intentional about building community and building coalitions, bringing people together from every walk of life and background, united by love of country with enthusiasm and joy in our fight for America's future. And we did it with the knowledge that we all have so much more in common than what separates us. Now, I know folks are feeling and experiencing a range of emotions right now. I get it. But we must accept the results of this election. Earlier today, I spoke with President-elect Trump and congratulated him on his victory. I also told him that we will help him and his team with their transition, and that we will engage in a peaceful transfer of power. A fundamental principle of American democracy is that when we lose an election, we accept the results. That principle, as much as any other, distinguishes democracy from monarchy or tyranny. And anyone who seeks the public trust must honor it. At the same time, in our nation, we owe loyalty not to a president or a party, but to the Constitution of the United States.
The presidency wasn't the only race on the line. Also on the ballot, control of the House and Senate. Joining me now is VOA Congressional correspondent Catherine Gibson with the latest on these races. Welcome to the Inside Story, Catherine.
Thank you so much for having me. So from Montana to Nevada, Texas to Maryland, we're going to take a look at the key races around the country.
For the first time in 4 years, Republicans have won a majority in the U.S. Senate.
This is certainly a happy day for the GOP.
Republicans secured their expected wins, and in Texas, Democrat Colin Allred failed to beat Republican Senator Ted Cruz.
I will fight for you, for your jobs, for your safety, and for your constitutional rights.
All 435 seats in the U.S. House of Representatives were also up for re-election, with Republicans expected to hold on to their control of the lower chamber. In the Senate races, Democrats did secure wins in California.
I'm committed to taking on the big fights to protect our freedoms and to protect our democracy.
Control of the Senate was decided by a few key races where the outcome was uncertain. Races such as in Ohio and in Montana, where Republican Tim Sheehy beat incumbent Democratic Senator John Tester.
So I want to thank the American people.
With control of the U.S. Senate, Trump will be able to confirm his nominees to the highest court in the land, the U.S. Supreme Court, and has a smoother path to passing his legislative agenda.
With a majority for Donald Trump, he can not only confirm his cabinet secretaries without having to get Democratic support, but also sub-cabinet secretaries. There's thousands of appointments to be made within the executive branch, and especially within the courts.
Republicans last controlled both chambers of Congress during the first 2 years of Trump's first term as president in 2017.
Excellent reporting, Catherine. So the Senate is under new political leadership. There were 34 of the 100 seats up for grabs this election. Republicans have flipped a few of those seats. Still more left to be determined. But, you know, is there one issue in those states that have flipped that voters decided was key to flip from Democrat to Republican?
Economy. It's the economy, stupid, which is an old campaign slogan from the 90s. It still holds true today. Reporting on the ground in Nevada, I was able to talk to voters at a Republican Senate rally. They were there for Captain Sam Brown, who is going up against Democratic incumbent Jackie Rosen. One after the other, always worried about the state of the economy and feeling like the U.S. still hasn't come out of that post-COVID dip, that possible recession. They were saying that they missed the 4 years under President Donald Trump. They wanted to get back to that, and the best way to do that would be to give him a Republican Senate.
So were there any bright spots for the Democrats?
There were a couple. In California, Adam Schiff, who many viewers may remember from Trump's impeachment trials, he's now the sitting U.S. Senator from California. Maryland also had an open Senate race that went the Democrats' way. An African-American woman, Angela Alsobrooks, now appointed to the U.S. Senate. So bits and pieces of bright spots here and there, but not enough to keep control of the U.S. Senate.
So let's turn to the House. The House has not been called yet. All of those House seats were up for grabs this election, and Republicans had control already, and we can see that they have picked up a handful of seats. If they retain control of the House, and we know that they retain control of the Senate now. They've gained control of the Senate. Right. What does that do for a Trump presidency?
That's huge for a Trump presidency. That means that he controls the White House and both branches of the legislative arm of government. That means that he faces no roadblocks in the form of a Democratic House of Representatives that can stop legislation before it gets to his desk. He is going to have a lot to work with if he gets that Republican majority in the U.S. House.
And so what does this mean for foreign policy?
Well, we heard from Mitch McConnell this morning, and he was talking about Ukraine aid. We all know that Mitch McConnell has gone against his party in a lot of ways on Ukraine aid. He makes the point that this is key to European security and the larger security of the entire world. But if we have that Republican House, if we have that Republican majority U.S. Senate, it's going to be very hard to get another Ukraine aid package through. Huge concerns now worldwide about whether or not that will happen.
And any changes to domestic policy, what does that mean for Trump if he has a House and a Senate on his side?
Well, even with control of both chambers, it's going to be a battle to get those tariffs through that Trump has been saying on the campaign trail that he wants to put through. A lot of concern among Republicans that this would be a great danger.
Right? Tariffs for China.
Exactly. Great danger for the U.S. economy. Very, very dangerous. A lot of Republicans will go against their own president, even for that.
Well, Catherine, excellent reporting. We will continue to watch how these races unfold. Thanks for being with us.
You're very welcome.
European leaders on Wednesday congratulated Donald Trump on his election victory despite nervousness across the continent's capitals over what the coming 4 years may deliver for transatlantic relations. Henry Ridgewell has more.
Donald Trump made a historic comeback in Tuesday's U.S. presidential election.
America has given us an unprecedented and powerful mandate.
US allies in Europe are pondering what the future president will do with that mandate. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer got off to a difficult start after the Trump campaign criticised his Labour Party officials for offering advice to Trump's rival, Kamala Harris, on the campaign trail. Starmer was quick to send his congratulations.
We live in probably a more volatile world than we've lived in for many decades. It is absolutely crucial that we have a strong relationship, that strong special relationship.
German Chancellor Olaf Scholz said things would be very different with Trump in the White House, but pledged to remain a reliable transatlantic partner.
This also applies with regard to the threat that all NATO allies believe Russia poses to security in the Euro-Atlantic area.
Trump has criticized U.S. support for Ukraine as it fights Russia's invasion, and there are fears he could end military and financial aid for Kyiv. In his first term, Donald Trump threatened to pull the United States out of NATO, claiming allies were taking advantage of the US. But in a statement Wednesday, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte said that Trump had, quote, turned the tide on European defense spending, improved transatlantic burden sharing, and strengthened alliance capabilities. Meanwhile, Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban made no secret of his preference for a Trump victory. When it came, he said, quote, for the world, it means the hope of peace. French President Emmanuel Macron and Donald Trump have had a volatile relationship, but Macron said Wednesday he was ready to work together, quote, with your convictions and mine, with respect and ambition, for more peace and prosperity. In reality, European allies are preparing for a stormy ride, says foreign policy analyst Garrett Martin of American University.
The 4 years where Trump was in office were rather tumultuous. There were moments of constant bickering, a lot of disunity, a lack of cohesion. So I think that was already at a time which was less arguably dangerous than it is now. We're now in the midst of a major war in Europe that's been going on for 2.5 years.
Meanwhile, next week's crucial COP29 climate summit in Azerbaijan is likely to be overshadowed by Trump's victory. The former president pulled out of the Paris Climate Accord in 2017, claiming it was unfair to the United States. His successor, Joe Biden, rejoined on his first day in office. But there are fears Trump will once again quit the agreement, even as scientists warn of catastrophic global warming without immediate action. Henry Ridgwell, VOA News.
For more about the man who won the presidency, here is VOA's Tina Trin with a profile of Donald Trump.
The Fox News decision desk can now project that former Vice President Joe Biden
has been elected President of the United States.
It was supposed to be the end. But when the end came, Donald J. Trump, 45th President of the United States, wasn't ready to admit defeat.
If you count the legal votes, I easily win. If you count the illegal votes, they can try to steal the election from us.
Trump urged supporters to prevent Congress from certifying those results on January 6, 2021.
We fight like hell, and if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore.
What resulted was a scene previously unimaginable in America that led to his second impeachment. Trump's unwillingness to take no for an answer was on brand for a man who has always spurned convention.
I think what you see is somebody who has incredible confidence in his own intuition.
Russ Mutner and Suzanne Craig are New York Times investigative reporters and co-authors of Lucky Loser, an unflattering look at how Trump fashioned himself into a self-made billionaire.
He has not, since the early 80s, really trusted people who have subject area expertise in almost anything. He will always overrule them to make things the way he wants them to turn out.
Trump's buildings were emblazoned with his name in large gold letters, a brash display of his ambition and self-promotion.
He was worth $200 million when he would talk. It was an interview he gave to the New York Times, and that grew to $1 billion when he was talking to 60 Minutes a decade later.
Trump excelled at drawing attention and cultivating a brand for himself as a deal maker. He made millions licensing his name. But behind the success were troubles. His companies filed for bankruptcy 6 times. His casinos lost money and were shuttered. Trump rebounded with his TV show The Apprentice, which led to his biggest role yet.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am officially running for President of the United States, and we are going to make our country great again.
Unapologetic and unfiltered, Trump was a polarizing nationalist candidate.
When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people.
As president, Trump appointed 3 Supreme Court justices who helped overturn federal abortion rights.
The U.S. death toll now above 150,000.
In early 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic tested Trump. He fast-tracked the development of life-saving vaccines, but he also appeared to suggest that scientists study injecting bleach to kill the virus. With over 9 million Americans infected and a death toll exceeding 230,000, voters that November chose Joe Biden as their next president. Out of office, Trump faced multiple criminal indictments and is the first former president to be a convicted felon. And yet, he has never been more popular than he is now. Surviving 2 assassination attempts this year has only strengthened the bond between him and his supporters.
God has a plan for Trump, and he absolutely was spared for some purpose and reason, and hopefully it's to become the 47th president.
American politics has never been the same since Donald Trump entered the field. And the man who once co-authored The Art of the Comeback may now be engineering one of the biggest in American history. Tina Trin, VOA News, New York.
We leave you with the view of the construction of the inaugural platform, which is already underway. On January 20th, the new president will take the oath of office on the west front of the U.S. Capitol. That's all for now. Thanks for watching. For the latest news, you can log on to voanews.com. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at VOA News. For more VOA content, follow me on X at CarlaBabVOA. Catch up on past episodes at our free streaming service, VOA Plus. I'm Carla Babb. We'll see you next week for The Inside Story.